Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. I'm here with Ed Lilly. How you doing, Ed?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
Good. I met Ed over on RJ from the Fourth Age. For those of you who don't know, RJ from the Fourth Age, we alternate every Wednesday night at 8:30. We go on each other's channel and we do what we call comic book team up,
Mm.
and we find a third person and we just talk about comics. So it's RJ and myself, and then the third person. I don't know where RJ found you, but I was super impressed with your work. I really like it.
Yeah, man. Thank you. He reached out to me on Twitter because I followed him and then he followed me and he's like, dude, you gotta come on our show and we were able to connect and talking to you guys. Man, that had me over the moon. I'm like, I gotta do crowdfunding. There's a lot left I have to do because, like you said before we hopped on, we did the fun stuff, we did the art, but how
Yeah,
do we now, do the business side of it?
right. Yeah, yeah. Uh, I mean, so yeah. So I I I I was really impressed with you. It hasn't happened too often that I just get super impressed with somebody's work. So for those of you who watch it, I've been reaching out to Ed, and I've been sending people that I'm friends with Ed's links and stuff. But just to connect because Ed's got a talent that should not just be you drawing at your house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Art should be out there. So Ed reached out, said, "Could you tell me about crowdfunding?" And I
Mm.
said, Let's make it a live stream and invite people." So on
Right.
that note, just to let you know, I didn't even do it yet. I uh, I want to put this in the link in the chat. So if anybody sees this, you click on it and come on in and talk about crowdfunding. Whether you have questions, because I'm a newbie, I'm in the process of doing it. Ed
I'm
didn't do
I'm
it.
I haven't even started yet. I haven't
Yeah,
even
Ed
left
didn't
you.
even really right. If correct me if I'm wrong, but we kind of put the bug in your ear. You didn't even think of it yet. And
It's one of those things where, I always thought of it, but it never clicked. I was like, I guess I had, what do you call it? Cold feet, I guess. I never thought it could work, but I don't know why, right? Just a lot of
hey,
mental.
Richard's Unicorn. This is a new name.
Richard June, thank you. Hey,
I
Richard.
love seeing new names. How you doing, Marcus? How you doing? Yeah, so Hojo, come on in. Hojo ran a couple of successful campaigns. Hojo has
Oh, nice.
a comic called The Mythicals that I really like. He's in uh, 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 the third issue is the process. Oh, we got my buddy Tonic Ball over here. How you doing?
Hey, what's up? Do you hear
Hey,
me
how you
okay
doing,
today?
Tonic? Oh,
What's going
okay.
on, man?
Tonic, this is Edward. Edward has oh Brian. Brian, we're talking about crowdfunding and asking questions of people who had successful campaigns. Brian, you'd be perfect if you want to come in and join Tonic Ball and Edward myself. You know, but just listen, whatever you want to do. Here's the link. Like Hojo, you're another guy. So I'm glad. So Tonic Ball right here is
I
for
love
those
that
of you who
profile, dude.
enjoy driving. Don't do what I do. Don't crash and drive, and then you can't do crap for 3 months. I was going to make a joke that I'm pulling my hair out, but then people will think that I actually did it. So anyway, the premise of this show is crowdfunding 101. From experts to newbies. So Tonic Ball, he has a very successful comic called Saving the World that
Nice.
I absolutely love, and I talk about that comic as much as possible to anybody that will listen. So Tonic, I'm so glad you're here because first off, you got good experience. Second off, I'm glad you met Edward because Edward's got amazing art that to me your art, like I described it as a great mix of like Mobius and then Rini from Rini Draws, and I've been trying to show Rini your stuff. So anyway, what is
And I
crowd?
appreciate that. Thank you.
So crowdfunding is you ask the crowd, the people, the common people, the demos,
Mm.
all those words for money, and then they send you money, and you make this artwork, and then you send it out. That's it in a nutshell.
Right.
So all I don't know what you're supposed to do. I don't know. All I know is what I did. What I did is, I'm a working construction worker.
Mm.
When I started my project, I found artists that I liked. I can't draw to save my life. So I found Renzo Rodriguez, and I wrote a script. I sent it to him. For whatever reason, he decided he liked me. I tricked him, I guess, and he drew my comic. And what I did was, as soon as he sent me a page, I paid him immediately because I don't like having bills over my head. I just want my bills done with. So and also I heard horror stories of people, not paying people and then whatever. It's a small world, and I don't need bad stories told about me. So I paid as fast as possible. Now you and Tonic Ball don't need that. You guys are your own artists. So you got a leg up on me. So I got all my artwork done. Then I got all my artwork colored, and I'm hoping by the end of this weekend I'll have all my comic book lettered and ready to go. Now here's the part that was all fun. Writing a story, man, Tonic, it's fun. Sending out your artwork and seeing your art coming back, it's fun. Then you see it colored, and then you share it with people. That's all fun. Oh man, it was so much fun. Now is the part that I'm scared. I didn't even know this when I started doing this. I didn't know that this step was even a step. That shows you how naive I was. I got to get a pre-press. So what that is somebody takes all your artwork files and makes it compatible, puts them all in order so that, when the printer does it, when the printer goes to print, everything's in order. They make sure that the files are the right size, that the whatever you guys used is compatible, the same computer language with all them, cleans it all up, make sure that the layers aren't going to transfer differently I don't know. See, I didn't even know that was a step. I thought it was like, cool, here's Page's art. Here you go, printer. Here you go, printer. Here you go.
Yeah.
I didn't know that some computer guys, and then the pre-press guy will talk to the printer, and then, Tonic Ball, which you use Teespring?
No, Comics Wellspring.
Oh, Teespring. Teespring makes t-shirts. That would be horrible to get your comic book printed on t-shirts and t-shirts. That would be a bad mistake, guys. Don't do that. It's
kind of cool.
How's the quality on Comics Wellspring? Because I've heard different things.
They're my favorite so far. I've tried. Let's see. Maxim is who I went with originally.
Yeah, I did them the first time too.
Yeah, their quality was okay, but it was really heavy stock. You couldn't do like a normal comic, and I had some problems with them. They're kind of like, you can't really contact them directly. There's kind of this distance there. And then I also tried Kablam, which is very similar to Comics Wellspring, but the quality is like 1% not as good as Comic Wellspring. So
that 1% makes all the difference.
Right. And it's the coloring. It's just slightly, but when I do a bunch of weird variants, I can do something that is completely throwaway as a joke, because I can take it to Kablam, and they'll do like one. Like you could do 2 covers if you want, like just 2 copies, whereas 25 minimum. So that's where I'll do, if I do like sketch covers and I only want to order like 5 of them because I only sold 5 sketch covers or something. And so I do my mass stuff at Comics Wellspring. But if there's something that was really just a goof or something and I only sold 5 or something, I'll go to Kablam, because they're pretty good. They're pretty close. And I'm trying to think if I've used any others. I think I've seen other people's comics from various ones, and ended up the best quality was from Comics Wellspring. And though I think there's a little bit of like what you're wanting, like I want a very comic book comic. So they do this 60-pound untreated interiors that is like a comic you would buy anywhere. And
I'll vouch. I love the way Tonic Ball's comics look and feel.
Yeah, and I only do black and white, so I'm about to do a color comic, so that I'll learn how that goes. But currently, the black and white looks great on that 60-pound. It has a little bit of texture, and so I like that.
Sweet. My
And
next book is going to be in black and white, so I was curious about that. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I highly recommend is that 60-pound untreated interior from. And Kablam, I think, has the same thing. Or Mixum, like one of their lightest, I think, is 70-pound, but it's not. The paper just ain't right. It's like too glossy or something, and it actually doesn't work for black and white because one time I did their paper and you could the blacks you could kind of see through, and it was a
Interesting.
problem. But then the 60-pound doesn't, and it's type of paper or something isn't as transparent or something.
It's funny. I did mix them for my first book. This was like 5 years ago, right? Like pre-COVID, and I had a 34-page colored book, and I thought the interiors, like even with the gloss, I think it brought out the colors nice, but the cover was weird. I was like, man, what happened with the cover here? Because I gave you guys a high res cover and it didn't look high res, but the interiors came out nice. But it was very glossy though. But I think the glossy with the colors worked, but I don't know how it would have worked with the black and white, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and and I guess style plays, like I'm not a super detailed artist, so I kind of need a little bit of paper texture, but like someone, I think I've seen your art. Is it very kinetic?
You can call it that, yeah.
Yeah, like movement.
Yeah.
That it might not matter what paper you print on.
Mobius, very Mobius looking. Mobius
Yeah.
and Rini from Rini. From
Yeah, the book, The Desert King, I just did pencils and Photoshop color, so every panel is like a painting almost.
Yeah.
And it's very, like what you said, Mobius, very Frazetta, very Ghibli, and like a mix mash of all those things. Whereas I think, but I was like trying to get something for that. Like I was trying to get a style specifically for that book. I think like my more traditional style is like just traditional comic stuff, Jim Lee stuff. I dig that, David Finch type stuff. So going forward, it's going to be more of that. So I'm not like doing Mobius level things on every panel and like driving myself crazy, losing my mind and coloring it.
Once you got the pre-press and then talked with the printer, how long? Because that's the step that I'm at right now. So let's say I talk to the pre-press guy right now. How long could I expect a comic in my hand?
Like 3 weeks, but it can vary wildly. But
I'm so
now when I originally did Saving the World #1, it was like 15 years ago. But I had, back then, they might have existed. I just didn't know about digital printers and stuff like today. It was offset print press or nothing. And I went to them. Well, back then it was like full on pre-press where the files had to be TIFF format and the text had to be in a separate layer and all this stuff. It was very complicated. And it was funny because as things change, now you send JPEGs, right? It's like a pre-press
or a PDF or something like that.
Yeah, and
I talked to a traditional printer. One of my buddies runs a traditional printer. He's like, "Yeah, we could do your comic, but minimum run is 100,000 issues."
Right.
And I was like, "Oh man!" So he started laughing because he knew
Yeah, and you can find some that do offset print press that does 3,000 or so, but now the price of digital printing is so low that, and I mean, you're looking at top comics like Cyberfrog, stuff like that, selling like 8,000, right? That's the top of the top. And so for a lot of us, 500, it would be a freaking home run that you would actually, because part of mine,
the range I'm looking at.
Yeah, I probably sell 100 150 physical copies with the initial campaign.
So you do the campaign, and then you have 150 backers, and you mail it off to them.
Yeah. So let's start at let's back up a little bit. So
yeah.
Okay. So, so now I hired an artist, everything like that. So I've been on YouTube for 3 years, almost daily, making videos, talking to people, and making a name for myself. And to be honest, for 2 years, I never thought of making a comic. I just wanted to, I started a YouTube channel out of boredom during COVID. I wanted to talk to people about comic books.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until I met RJ who introduced me to you, and I saw that he was making a comic book, and I was like, I could do this too. I've always wanted to, let me try it. So then he put the bug in my ear, and I got a lot of information. So he helped me, he introduced me to Renzo, and started helping me out, giving me advice. And then I met guys who are in the chat, like Brian Bao, who's been super, like he read my script and gave me advice about like my script, so
who's the name of that script reader?
Oh, Brian Bao. Right over here. He does a wonderful comic called Wolf and Batsy.
Nice.
And I'd like to think that I introduced Brian Bao to Tonic Mole. Maybe they introduced each other, and I just been making. It's just who I am. I'm friendly and I like to talk about comic books. So everybody, I just ask them questions and ask for help. And again, like Tonic Mole and Brian and RJ. Everybody's so helpful. Everybody's so helpful, and they're nice and they want to help. And so, first off, my biggest advice is reach out. You don't get what you don't ask for. Like you reached out to me, so good for you.
Right.
Reach out, ask for help. Most people help, and then you got a way big bonus that I don't have is you're super talented with your art. So you literally have done it all by yourself. But I forget who had a wonderful looking book. I talked to so many people, I forget, but they did their Kickstarter and it went nowhere because nobody knew about it. So this is the point that I'm like, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter who you know.
Right.
You got to get out there. You got to do a daily grind, and just get your name, get on other people's shows. I'm not at the point where I could do conventions yet because I don't have any product yet. I'm hoping by the end of October, I could actually physically get in people's faces with the comic. But you know what I mean? It's Stan Lee is dead. There's nobody there to push, and we don't work for a company. We can't just hand over a file and everybody else. So you just got to get out there. Twitter. Get on other people's shows. Get on.
Funny, like I just started Twitter. Like I wasn't even posting when RJ reached out.
Right. So how the hell did he find you then?
I was doing that Red Sonja sketch that I posted, and I was looking for reference, and I liked his page, and I liked one of his things, and that's when he hit me up.
Oh.
He hit me up. So I was like, okay, Ed, no choice. Start posting on X. Be more social. Talk to people like you guys. Like, I'm glad we did this today because now I'm connected with
right.
Tonic Mole.
It's all a circle, expand your circle.
I think I've been very I've held my stuff so close to the chest for whatever neurotic reasons I have. But it's like, all right, well, that's not working anymore. Let's talk to people, Right. So I'm loving this.
And Tonic Mole is like a guru. How many issues are you up to now?
11 of my main series. And then I have another artist that's doing a spinoff at the same time. So
he's hiring other people now.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And
we're going to be working for Tonic Mole someday.
I have a third one, but it's a secret still. But so I'll have.
Is that the secret that I know about, or is this another secret?
No, that's a secret you know about.
Okay, well, it's not really a secret. I've been talking about it. Tonic Mole, myself, and Oscar Crano are working on a book.
That one, but you know about the other one too. I forgot. Okay, 4.
Oh, okay.
He got 4 secrets.
Yeah,
his secrets have secrets.
That's right. I have my
taking over the world.
He's secrets I forgot.
No. Don't hurt your neck as part of a strategy. That's not advice. Do the opposite of hurting your neck. Stay healthy, ladies and gentlemen.
So what happened? You got into a car accident?
Yeah, I was coming home from work, and it was a hot day in July, and I didn't eat. It was so hot. I just didn't want to eat. So I didn't eat breakfast. I didn't eat lunch, and I was driving home. But the doctors are telling me that they think it was my blood sugar. And I got all woozy, and I right off the road, right into it. And thank God I veered to the left, because if I veered to the right or stayed straight, I would have killed somebody else, because I accelerated as I passed out.
Oh,
I went forward right into literally broke my neck. So it's been 3 months in a brace. But that, it's funny because you never met me without the brace, so you didn't know I was the guy with the big beard. I look like Grizzly, but I can't wear a beard with this thing on. It drives me crazy. But don't do that, ladies and gentlemen. Eat your breakfast. It's the most important meal of the day.
Don't get into a car accident.
Don't get into a car accident. So what was I saying? Now I lost my. So you got to get out there. Like, if I might toot my own horn right here, I'm going to bring up my campaign. Okay, so I know what I don't know. So this is my first campaign. I did $6,122, 216 backers on Fund My Comic. I also have another 55 backers on Kickstarter, and my Indiegogo is still new. I only have 6 backers on Indiegogo, but I will say that, like, it's because I went out there and started talking with people and putting and inviting people and putting a name for myself, that like this. This is Pat Broderick. I don't know if you're familiar with Pat Broderick. Pat Broderick is a legendary comic book artist. The only reason why I was able to get this is because I talked to Mike Barron, and Mike Barron is friends with him, and Mike Barron connected, all because I was talking to people and making connections, that I have a cover by one of my favorite comic book artists. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's amazing. Let me ask you this. So you're running the same campaign on these 3 platforms?
Yes. I think I made a mistake. So going forward, I'm going to do it differently. Now, Tonic, what you only use Kickstarter, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, so like the business model for it all, like I used to do multiple platforms. It ended up to where Kickstarter was so carrying so much of the weight that, like, my Indiegogo, I'd get like maybe 5 or 6 people, but I would have 250 at Kickstarter. And so eventually I was like, okay, I'm just gonna, but you can run them all at the same time, or stair step them to where you run Kickstarter first, and then after that you do an Indiegogo, and then you can do a Fund My Comic or Fund My Comic. I would honestly say Kickstarter and Fund My Comic. Indiegogo has just, at least for my circle of people, getting 6 backers is like a home run on Indiegogo. I don't know
I don't even know if this is going to fund. I still have 48 days. What kills me about this is I put this cover on Indiegogo.
Right.
It's a shame. I just love this cover so much.
It's a great cover.
That was the last thing I did. I did a Indiegogo exclusive cover on, I can't remember what comic it was, which issue, but I sold a handful. I was like, okay, that's enough. I need to just focus on Kickstarter. And now Kickstarter has where your campaign, you can keep selling tiers after the campaign wraps, and you can set to where maybe the price goes up, stuff like that. And so that kind of helps fill in the gap between your next campaign. And we were talking about before, I'll get like 250 backers per campaign, and so many of them will be the physical, and then so many will be the digital. So I'm only printing 150 to 200 copies, and then the rest are digital backers.
Right.
And
Dave, come on in if you're watching. Come on, he's another funder.
I ship them all out from my house, and so I just kind of handle everything. Now my pre-press is really almost non-existent. I draw all my comic on. It's when I'm drawing it, it's formatted, for my printer. I know what the dimensions are. I already have the bleed all set up, and and then those files go directly from my iPad to depending on where I'm sending it. If it's what's the Comics Wellspring, I think they want JPEGs, which they're the only place I've seen they won't accept anything else. And so,
Wow.
if I'm correct, I'm pretty certain.
You got to get the DPI up. That's 600 DPI right there.
Right. And so, it's become absurd to where, nobody's left saying I need a TIFF, because a JPEG where you have a 600 DPI massive JPEG
These
file.
are all terms I didn't even know what they meant when I started doing it. I didn't know what a TIFF was. I literally didn't know what a JPEG was, because believe it or not, I'm not a computer person. I'm an old school guy who needs to hold a comic book. So I reached out to I had to hire a guy to make my logos, because I just assumed Renzo would make logos. Renzo's like, I don't want to do logos. That's like lettering, So I reached out to Nick X. You liked his art on Crom the Destroyer, RJ. Yeah. He also does logos. And then I hired a guy to make my my campaign page. I hired Nick X to make my campaign page, because I literally didn't know how to transfer files from my computer to Indiegogo or Crowdfund. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I was like, oh my man, I realized how much I didn't know after I already was too well invested and I couldn't back out. You know what I mean?
But isn't that cool though, that you didn't literally know anything about like all the back end stuff, and now you have a successful.
I jumped in this pool, just enthusiasm and love of comics.
Yeah.
And people ask me, would I make a comic book now, knowing what I didn't know? And the answer is I would still do it, but I think I would have been a little bit more prepared, but at the same time, I don't think I ever would have been prepared. So maybe it's just best that I just jumped in.
I made my comic, the first issue, in around 2008 and 2010, but I had no ability to do anything with it. Crowdfunding really wasn't a deal, much of a thing back then. And my life just took a different route, and I'd kind of given up. I was like, enough's enough, because I had worked since I was a teenager making comics and never got I think the only one close to print was I took it and got a bunch of photocopies made and like handed them out. But so
I did that too. I mean, I would cut out things and glue them to paper, more like that punk zine aesthetic that I would make flyers for friends, stuff like that. So, but I didn't draw it. I would draw like silly Charlie Brown shapes of like obscene Charlie Brown and Lucy and stuff like that, just to, for my punk friends and photocopy. But that's about it.
And I was in my like late 20s, and I said, I'm done. So I didn't even pick up a pencil. That comic was done, and I put all that stuff into a Tupperware thing under my bed, and I couldn't even draw. I didn't even want to think about it. And then when I was 39, so roughly 10 years later, I saw all these people crowdfunding, and I was like, well, that's awesome. And so, and I wasn't on social media either, because I didn't really care to do it. But like there was a little
because we're artists and we don't want to talk to people.
Right. And there was a negative.
If I may interrupt for a second, a lot of guys tell me before we go live or after that they don't like talking to people. Not that they don't like people, it's just that they're shy, introverted people. I mean, comic books really is a solo activity. Think about it. You draw. If you're making comic books, you're sitting in your basement and you're drawing. And if you read comic books, you're sitting in your basement. And so like out of all my comic book friends, they'd be happy if like just to sit and read, and then like they once a week they would go to the comic book store and talk to a couple. Hey, how you doing?
What's
I'm the weirdo that likes to do this. So a lot of the guys are like, can I come on your show, because I think I'm easy to talk to. But how else are you gonna get?
How else are you gonna connect with people?
Yeah.
It's funny that when you say comics is like an isolated thing, it can be, but when I'm reading the credits of a Marvel book or a Spawn book or this book, that book, that is like you have the penciler, the inker, the editor-in-chief, the colorist, you know what I mean? Like it actually should be ideally a team effort, to make a book.
Because my comic is definitely a team effort, without any one person on my team, this comic wouldn't happen. And that goes for guys like Brian, who just gave me advice, and Tonic Bowl, who's been giving me advice, and Nick, who literally, I joke around because I'm putting the titles of my comic. I said, what title do you want? He said, don't even give me a credit. I said, no, you got to get a title. I said, because you're my turd polisher. You took this unformed mess and you polished it into a real comic book. So he was like, give me the credit of turd polisher. So, but,
there you go.
But this is all because when I started making, I didn't know a lot of these people. So I don't. So I guess one of my biggest advice is don't be afraid to ask for help and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, and
that's what I did today.
I write and draw my comics, and then I have a friend. He's done the covers ever since #1, and then I send them to the printer. They come back. I pack them all up and I ship them and I set up my campaigns and all this stuff. But still, there is a loneliness that can drive you insane, and so reaching out become increasingly important. But even with #1, I would have failed because I'd argue I wasn't a fan of my first comic. For one thing, it was made 10 years before I actually decided to try to fund it. And so you'll see in my first issue to second issue, there's this massive leap, because even though I hadn't drawn in that gap, your brain just develops and can do things better. And so there was this huge gap. And then every issue you see that I'm learning how to draw, basically. But even though your style is like, it's not the same as the Hernandez brothers, but I get the same independent vibe. You know what I mean? I love it. And I will say, nobody does dialogue like Tonic Bowl. I love dialogue. Still, I need people. So, because I was a big fan of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the 80s, and they'd cross over with Cerebus. So these guys could have been isolated and just stayed to themselves. But even in Cerebus, you'll see he started to publish Flaming Carrot, and then Cerebus would cross over with Ninja Turtles, and then even in the Image era, Cerebus was in Spawn, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossed over with Savage Dragon all the time. So these guys from that black and white boom of the early 80s had this huge social network, really, even though they didn't need each other for actual creative work. They created this community that kind of helped each other. And so, like with my first issue, I'd for a year been just reaching out to people, and I didn't fully know I was going to try to fund a comic. I just wanted to be part of something comic book related.
Right.
And so I just started reaching out, and I found guys that were like Jimmy Palmiotti and Terry Moore, and they were like really nice, and like I could reach out to them, and they were really cool. And
you guys are really nice.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a super noob here, so I have my style, but like hearing you guys, hearing the broader perspective of comics and how we all kind of have the same struggles is very, very encouraging.
Contrary to the way it may seem right now, the comic book world is actually pretty pleasant, and most of the people, unfortunately, like think of it as like there's a lot of planets, but unfortunately there's a lot of supernovas that draw a lot of the attention that are these drama sinkholes that just avoid them. I
want to hear from a Pixel trader here.
Hey, Pixel, how you doing?
Yeah, how's it going, guys? Yeah, so I just happened to get out of a meeting. I'm like, you know what?
Turn up your volume. I can barely hear you.
Okay, hold on. Let me see what's going on.
Yeah, Pixel's got a comic out coming up. Little Mermaid. It's Wolf on the Little Mermaid.
Any better now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just got out of a meeting, so I figured I'd pop in and see how things were going. But yeah, I haven't really caught too much of the conversation. I just kind of came in right as I got into the call, so I'm kind of catching up. But yeah, it is definitely a interesting process to do your first book. I wouldn't have done it myself. I couldn't have done it myself. I have a writer and an artist that I'm working with, even though I'm an artist as well. Being able to put all these pieces into motion and be able to get a product out of that. It's tough. To be able to coordinate all of the different moving pieces and just things you don't even think about. Like you start doing this, you're like, okay, I'm gonna get ready to fulfill. Oh, I need all these different supplies. I need to get a printer for my labeling. I need to get tape.
I just ordered a printer today. It just like 20 minutes before we went live, I was talking with my letterer, Bill Williams, who I was hoping he would come because he would be such an invaluable resource.
Bill's awesome. Yeah.
He sent me links. He goes, so this is stuff that I didn't even know. I got a rolling printer that to print out, I got a scale. Like I look like a drug dealer. You know what I mean? I just ordered bags and scales. The post office is like, we got to watch this guy, because and things like, I don't have them over here, but like Gemini mailers, if you get your comic book and you send it out in the wrong packing material, there's a chance it's going to get beat up. The Gemini mailers now are like the standard, and you could put like 3 or 4 comics in one Gemini mailer, and it'll come perfect. So here's a funny thing: when Tonic Ball sends me a comic, it comes in a Gemini mailer. I cut it open, and I rip the sticker off, and I read because that saves me $1. You got to cut corners because I don't Tonic Pixel. Are you guys making money on your comics yet? Because I know I ain't.
I'm still on my first book, and I know I'm not going to make any money, honestly. Because I'm going to be giving pretty much all of the money to the writer and the artist. My whole thing for this was just to produce something. It started as a joke anyway. It was just a Twitter post to piss people off, and it wound up exploding, and people loved it, and so we built a project out of it. I had no expectations. The fact that we crossed 20K.
Go into it, though.
Exactly.
See what happens. I think that's the best way to do it, because my first book had all this like meaning and like subconscious stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is part of who I am type shit. And I'm like, that's pain.
And then somebody doesn't like it, you're just like, they don't like me.
They don't. Granted, I don't think I could have gotten it done if I didn't have that at that time in my life. So it's like I had to do that, but whatever, live and learn, right?
Yeah, definitely. Based on the numbers that I've run, printing is going to wind up being a little more than I had expected because we missed our initial date that we thought we were going to hit, and so that's going to push things out a bit. And so I'm assuming we're probably going to break even with how much we've made, maybe a little bit in the bank still, but like I said, that's going to go to Eric and Piper for the most part. I'm pretty much just making sure that we don't lose money as best as possible. But I mean, if we do wind up negative, I'll just throw some extra into the bank and then take care of it that way. Because this is one of those things where I want it to be successful. I want it to do what we need to do. I think we've got enough. We've got enough to be able to produce it and knock it out and get it out to everybody. So I'm happy as far as that goes.
Just showing some of your art, because I do think people need. We got a lot of cool people, a lot of people who are making their own comics. They got to see your art, Eddie. I am seriously floored by your art.
Oh wow, dude! Yeah, this looks nice.
Yeah. Like I said, you got like a Studio Ghibli meets Mobius going on.
Yeah. Thank you.
We got a lot of questions in the chat. I'm not ignoring them. I'm just waiting until we get to like a logical point, because people are talking about what they feel is important. Then
Hojo mentioned Alterna Comics here, and I was going to ask about that because I remember them. They started a printing thing.
Yeah, Alterna Comics is a small press. Brian was part of them. That's how I met Tonic Ball, because Tonic Ball put an ad in an Alterna comic, and I said, "This looks cool," And then I bought. So that they print pretty regularly, but they're not taking submissions. They're kind of like staying as like a 4-comic company for the time being. But he prints.
They started popping off, and then I haven't heard anything from them in a while.
Yeah. Well, they got a big thing coming out, and I don't know if they want to expand out. But as of right now, they're not taking submission. But that's Pete Semetti at Alterna Comics. I'm not saying don't reach out to him. He's actually given me a lot of good advice.
Nice.
But they use newsprint, and I keep asking him, where do you get printed? And he won't tell me. It's like a trade secret. So if anybody could track down Pete Semetti and find out because I would love that paper, but.
Well, he does offer printing. He has a print program, or at least he used to. I'm not sure if he still does it, but you could actually run a print run through him.
Oh, okay. I'll talk
I
to
think
him.
it needed to be like you have to print like 500. That's what it was back a while ago when he started.
Well,
I don't know what happened since then.
He prints big print runs for our side of the thing, and he stores them and then keeps them going in the store. Now, I was thinking of doing the same thing because I got this comic book room over here. I could afford to keep another 2,000 comic books, know, next to these 57,000 comic books. Nobody will know, and then sell them. So I'm more willing to overprint, but not a lot of people are. And again, I have this luxury of I have a decent day job, so like I'm not going to mention names, but I had a bigwig on my, and afterwards he kind of like reprimanded me that I was doing crowdfunding wrong. Because what crowdfunding is supposed to like a guy, I don't know if you have a day job or any of you guys do day, but like crowdfunding is you basically asking people to pay your expenses while you're making the comic. I paid for my comic out of pocket, and my crowdfunding, what I was going to do is take that money and use it for the next issue. So maybe the next issue would be free to me, you know what I mean? And then keep rolling it along. Unfortunately, what I took in is still, I went overboard with my expenses. I'm doing a 40-page comic for $10. What's wrong with me? And you know what I mean? So he was just like, you can't do that. That makes us look bad. Because I was like 85% done before I even launched my comic. So I didn't argue with the guy. I see his point, but we're at different, so whatever works for you is I'm going to say, like, I took his advice. It made sense to me, but like him as a creator, he couldn't do 85% of the comic and then start a crowdfunder and then like 6 people backed it because nobody wanted it because, so he did like 4 pages to show people the concept, got and now is getting paid and is going forward knowing that his bills are paid, you know what I mean, that it's worthwhile pursuing. That's I think the truest use of crowdfunding. What I'm probably a bastardization of it, but
no, I'd argue the opposite.
Okay, cool. I got Tonic Ball on my side, so there we go. We can take the world.
Well, here's the problem. Crowdfunding isn't a huge problem because too many people had 2 pages. They didn't know, like you were talking about, all the things you're going to come across. Yeah, you need to do that before you start taking in money. My first issue was completely done and ready for print before I crowdfunded. Now, if I don't have the dedication to finish it before I take money, there is no way I got the dedication to fulfill it once I got fat cash in my pocket. And now currently, no, at this point, I'm doing some like rapid fire comics. I'll have 5 or 6 pages done, but I'm confident I can get them done at the deadline and yada, yada. But that was the first 3 or 4 issues were done or almost done before crowdfunding started because I didn't want to get myself caught. And actually, speaking of getting I did fund a comic and I had it mostly started, but I overextended myself. So this would have been it's Red Sirens #1, which I'm working to get fulfilled now, get it wrapped up now. But I funded it way too long ago, but I realized I couldn't let my other comics fall behind, so I've been just taking my licks and stuff and making it up to people while I keep Saving the World coming out. But no, that whole I don't want to draw the comic if nobody's going to buy it. You know how many comics I've drawn that nobody's bought or never did?
Me too. I'm not even
imagine like not
get my childhood comics right over there and show you. Nobody will buy them.
I couldn't imagine like fulfilling something and then doing it. Like I'm working on my next book now, like assuming it will be done before anyone even knows it exists because I have to do it, And
now, it is a little different, and I wouldn't say that you have to have it done because, like in John's situation, where someone's hiring. That's where crowdfunding comes in. You have to get the money. That's fair.
Yeah.
In my case, I can fully do the comic by myself, and I kind of have to pay myself because I will say I have no other job.
Right.
Like, this is all I do for a living is make my Saving the World comic book. And so it's a minimum. It's basically a minimum wage job. I make as much as someone working at McDonald's, but
it's yours.
I make that money doing comics, so that's kind of cool.
That's
And
very cool.
Well, kudos on you on even making minimum wage. I'm you know, all the money that I'm not crying poverty or woe or anything like this, but all the money that I've raised on my comic book was to pay Renzo and Oscar and you know what I mean? So I'm literally paying for printing and fulfillment out of pocket. I was hoping to make 10K. That would probably cover everything.
Yeah, I think my first 5 issues. Wait, no, my first 4 issues I had a normal job, and then I had a health deal, but me and my dad had started a business, so but then I had a health deal where I couldn't do that work anymore. So then we sold the business. So that gave me 2021. I had money from that. Wasn't a lot, but I had some. And then since then, it's been just comic books. And so it's possible, but you would have to be a writer artist that can do it all yourself. I have, Illustrator Monk. He helps me sell the comics with his covers, which is the image there. That's just the point. That's not, I didn't draw my little thing. That's Illustrator Monk, my cover artist. Gotcha. And so I'm not quite that good, but I have him, but he's kind of my buddy. I probably pay him 1/8 of what he should be getting paid and stuff. And we trade things and whatnot. But so I keep my overhead super, super low. So if someone said, I want to make a living doing this, well, then kind of like some of the stuff Ed was talking about, you know, you can have all the creative talent, and really in entertainment business, no matter how small or big it is, the difference is, you know, you see someone make a movie and you go, that movie sucked. Why didn't a better person get to make that movie? Well, the more talented person, you also have to have all the other skills, or you can't make it to that. So a comic book artist, the best comic book artists don't necessarily win the day, because that person also has to be timely, punctual, and meet their deadlines, not just crack and disappear.
I'm just showing some of your art here, little Eddie.
There's Eddie.
And Eddie is doomed.
The semi secret is less secret now, but but you know, all of those things. And so, like, for me, I am by far not the best artist or writer in indie comics, but I make up for it in possibly networking and sheer enthusiasm.
I want to say, Apex, low business overhead is the key. This is something I wish somebody had told me when I started, because I went nuts. I got all stupid. I ordered pint glasses with logos on them. You know, I ordered these coins from Norway. You know.
Man.
And then when they didn't come on time, I ordered bigger, more expensive coins, because I was like, I gotta have the coins. I told people I was big. And then I didn't put these coins on any campaign. So I'm
you're just sitting on a stack of coins, baby.
These are like $20 each, and I sold like 4 of them. You know, but I'll put them on my campaign for issue number 2. And then Sticker Mule made a big deal. So I made stickers. You know, I made cards. You know, Brian Bow really helped me make I don't regret any of these, because they're really, really fun. You know, really, but then I hired legendary artists to make covers. You know, because I was like, wow, it's my comic book. I love Pat Broderick. I love Michael T. Gilbert. I love Mike Kostovich. My comic's supposed to be a Bronze Age. So I just went nuts. I hired, and none of these guys I regret. Like I hired Nick to do logos for me, which he did a bang up job. I hired other people to do stuff, and then they disappeared. You know, so be aware of that. You know, trust the people. When you find somebody that you trust, that's worth gold. I hired a couple of people and then never heard from them again. So I think I got scammed. So like now, I think issue 2, to address Apex's point and Tonic Mole's point, I literally think I could reduce my my overhead by like, I'd say like a third, maybe half, because I went nuts. I was like a kid in the candy store. I'm making a comic book. Everybody, I'm making a comic book. And I also hate to say it, but I charge $10 for my comic, and it's 40 pages. You know, I might have to just economically raise my price to 15 for issue 2. And then I'll tell people, yeah, it was an introductory issue. You know what I mean? But
right.
But I didn't realize my comic was going to be 40 pages when I started out. The story kept getting bigger.
Right.
I added stuff. I added a stretch goal before I even launched because I was just so enthusiastic. You know what I mean? I do think enthusiasm is good, and I think enthusiasm is what got me to $6,000 on my first project. But enthusiasm doesn't pay the bills. It kind of, you know. So I hired Oscar and Ron Mosicki, who did a wonderful backup story. And that was supposed to be a stretch goal, but I was just like, "Eff it, let's go." And we made it before the comic. That was finished before even the comic launch. So I had my stretch goal paid for. You know, same with the cards. You know, I had Renzo and Oscar make all the cards before, and then I had to pay somebody to do the back of the cards because I can't do simple stuff. You know, I'm so computer illiterate. So, Edward, you could do everything. Tonic Mole could do everything. So you got a great advantage. But like, you know, so I cannot stress keep the overhead as low as possible. Like I went berserk like a little freaking kid. But I'm happy I did it.
Yeah.
Like
now you know. Now you have the contrast of the knowledge of what to do and what not to do.
Well, look
I did the same thing.
Now I got original Mike Gustovich artwork hanging in my.
Holy crap! That's awesome.
So like, 2 years from now, am I really going to miss that $4,000 that I overspent? You know what I mean?
You know, and I did. I mean, when I had like a normal, when I was running the tire shop, and I didn't have to, breaking even was really what I needed to do just so I wasn't losing money. But and honestly, I don't even know. I never kept track close enough to know if I made or lost money on my first issues. But it was about, you know, building up because, you know, and it depends what type of comic book creator you want to be. Like for me, I'm interested in series. Like I don't really have interest in doing like that one-shot comic because I feel like I'm not, you know, I think the more skill someone has, the more they could do just a one-off and people would go, wow, amazing. For me, I'm like, no, I got to really drive it home, like keep convincing them issue after issue. And it's fun to explore a story on that scale. But the point being, my first first 4 or 5 issues, I didn't even think about how much I was spending or how much I was making. If I had I just needed enough money to do it, and I did, so it worked out. But I got into the. Now I didn't do the one hiring I did that was like a bit more money. Ended up saving me though. Issue 3. So I talked about Ninja Turtles. I really like that was very inspiring to me. The Mirage Studios Ninja Turtles, and I emailed Jim Lawson, who drew the Ninja Turtles for like 30 years, and I was like, hey, would you do a pinup for this? Is a spinoff Lily and Wepwet of my comic. And at the time, which was my 3rd comic I released, so like I got way ahead of myself. I was doing a spinoff after my first 2 issues. Anyways, he said, yeah, I'll do a pinup. I said, hey, if you got time, and this was later, I said, I don't want to overstep or whatever. Would you do like a 3-page interior story? He said, of course, whatever you got. So then I said, well, if you're excited about that, will you do like a 15-page interiors for Saving the World #3? And he goes, yeah. So I sent him the script and stuff, and he did that. Well, at that time, that he was working on that, I had a like mental breakdown thing, but it's was it disassociation or whatever, which I have occasionally, and but it was real bad this time for some reason. And so I couldn't go to work. I couldn't do nothing. But he was drawing that comic, and I was like, boy, that saved me. I got a week or two to get my brain put back together enough to draw comics. Oddly enough, I can be totally barely conscious and write and draw comics. So I don't know what that's all about.
I'm barely conscious talking to my wife.
and so it worked out. But him doing that saved me. Of course, there's no way I made a profit off of that. I can't remember how much I paid him, which, I mean, the guy charges 1/10 of what he should be, but still, it's money. And so, but then, that built up a relationship to where, Jim Lawson has done lots of covers and little things like that.
Building relationships. Yep.
Yeah. And I got to meet him at a Comic-Con and hang out with him and stuff.
Nice.
And talk about the comics and stuff. And I brought some of the comics of mine that he'd worked on. So he carried them, because his table is pure Ninja Turtles. And so he goes, yeah, if you have some, I'll take them so I can take them to conventions with me. So I have something other than Ninja Turtles. He goes, I'm not going to say anybody will buy them because they don't even, because he has some original content that's not Ninja Turtles himself. And he goes, people generally just want Ninja Turtles, but hey, we'll see what happens. And so, that random networking of just email, he's not on social media at all, but I can email him. But with and networking, that would probably be the biggest. Before you worry about printing or anything.
People, yeah. Again, you could have the greatest comic in the world if nobody knows about it.
Right.
I think the story I always tell, the jokey story I always tell, is I was listening to Gene Simmons of Kiss on a radio show, and somebody called in. It was just like, "Hey, Gene, I'm in a band and I want to do it all," And Gene Simmons was like, "Listen, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that you're a good guitarist. I'll give you the good benefit of the doubt that you're a good singer. I'll give you the good benefit of the doubt you can write songs." He goes, "But even I can't do the marketing. I can't be the PR guy. I can't be the manager. I can't load up the trucks and unload the trucks and fix the equipment when it breaks down." He goes, and you know how Gene Simmons is egomaniac. He goes, "Even I can't do it all." And what Tonic Ball's saying is right. You got to network. You got to market. Like Andy Smith said, start a YouTube channel, start talking. But at the same time, Hojo is in the chat, and Hojo doesn't have a YouTube channel, but he's got a successful comic. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, everything is possible, but is Hojo hurting himself or not hurting himself? Who knows?
It's networking. It's networking more than anything else. I don't have a channel. I mean, I have a channel, but I never
that's right.
post
You don't have
to
a channel either, really.
I don't got a channel either.
Tonic doesn't have a channel. Yeah,
I don't have a channel.
right.
We came on your channel.
The only one.
We went on Genuine Comics channel. We went on anywhere that would have us. We went on and talked about our book. It didn't matter if they had 2 viewers in the chat, whatever. If they wanted to talk about comics, they wanted to talk about what we were doing, we were there. And we got all over the place. We also antagonized the hell out of the Disney Twitter account for about 6 months straight, which was awesome. Never got blocked, which I was kind of bummed about, but we took it to them quite a bit. And yeah, it's all marketing. It's all getting yourself in front of people and being able to stay in front of them, because the way the algorithm works, if you're not posting regularly, you disappear. And if people aren't interacting with you, you disappear. So you have to get on the bigger tweets. You have to actually. So one of the things I did, which may benefit you if you're trying to market this, if there's specific topics that you're trying to tap into, do a Twitter search. Look for, you can actually filter by the number of likes. Like, say this topic or this post has to have more than 100 likes on it. It has to have more than 30 retweets. Things like that. You can set all those things in the advanced search, and you can save that bookmark and then hit that regularly. So what I was doing is I was looking for Little Mermaid related tweets that had blown up past a certain amount, and then I was hopping on those, dropping the link and talking trash about the movie. And then everybody's going, "Oh, what is this thing about this crazy mermaid with a machine gun?" And so we started getting interaction. Most of the interaction was from people that didn't like the movie, that were already talking trash to the same tweet. But there were a few times where we got some other interactions too, which were kind of fun. But we did that. I did that regularly. Almost every day I was checking it multiple times during the day, just hitting it up. And then Twitter also has the ability to, X I guess now, has the ability to schedule posts. So if you're not scheduling posts to go off like in the middle of the night when you're not there, there are people international, there are people up at all hours of the night. You can set up posts to go off in the middle of the night. You're not even there. Just it's marketing. You're keeping the posting going throughout the day, posting photos or doing whatever you need to do just to keep that interaction alive. It helps a lot.
That's really good advice.
Yeah, with my first issue, it was a random whim, but I decided because I'm entirely Twitter almost only. All my marketing and all that, except for after I got so many issues, I got a mailing list, so then I could do that.
There's something we could talk about, yeah.
Which is much more beneficial than anything. But when my first issue, I did, and I do things like this occasionally, and it's my version, like everybody will find their own weird niche of how to get people motivated. But I in my comic, in the first like 2 or 3 pages, and it takes place inside of a comic book store. So I was like, man, it'd be cool to, instead of having like Fat Man and stuff like that, like spin-offs of reels, mainstream, to do all indie covers, like all crowdfunded. And so I tweeted, hey, who has a crowdfunded comic that I could use the cover for the background on the racks and stuff. And this was my first issue. I was adding a couple of pages to the thing I'd already done, and the first time I tweeted it, 1 or 2 people, but not much. Well, then Terry Moore, who does Strangers in Paradise, he retweeted it and said, yeah, you can use Strangers in Paradise. Well, boy, did that open the flippin' floodgates. So all of a sudden, this thing went viral. And so I had hundreds of these people, and I tried to fit everybody in. And so you'll see Strangers in Paradise comic covers and stuff in the first issue. And but also Jimmy Palmiotti that I talked to, because I was really inspired by, I didn't do superhero comics. When I was a little kid, I did. But when I grew up, I was more into Ghost World and a lot of Fantagraphic stuff, but also The Crow. Really, and so I was doing a lot of psychological type things that nobody liked. And but I went to the comic book store and saw Power Girl, which I was a fan of Batman back when I was a kid, but I didn't really care much for superheroes.
And I'm hoping Tonic Mall becomes a millionaire so I could sell my original Tonic Mall art.
You'll be rich.
Nice.
Yeah.
There you go.
And so I was a big fan of that. So I was talking to his Power Girl run. So I talked to him and stuff. Well, he retweeted and stuff. Well, and actually he said, hey, talk to my brother. So, it's kind of like what John was saying about going crazy. I decided, okay, I have issue number 1, but my comic was very isolated, just talking about the 2 main girls. And I wanted readers to know now that this thing is giant, that there's a whole universe of characters, but it wasn't in that comic. So I was like, well, I'll do another comic that I'll give away with this one that is about that. So it was, I over one weekend, I drew I wrote, drew and inked and finished a 8-page story, which I don't know how. That's probably leading up to that whole mental thing I had later. But I got that all done, and then hired Jimmy Palmiotti's brother to do a 5-page short, and then my friend Tony Sizzle to do another short. So we did a little companion book with it that was called Saving the Universe, and so it hinted at, there's a lot more to all this. Anyways, but all that networking, with and then the huge networking that branched down of people seeing Terry Moore retweet it, and so I met a bunch of other creators and stuff like that. And but with my first issue, I had variant covers that because I started talking to Brian Ball, who does rags, and he was they have a Patreon, so they went a different route. Instead of they get funded by Patreon. It's a whole nother beast that I've never been able to figure out. But I
don't think I have anything to offer Patreon. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's more for artists, you know.
It takes a total, like, the head guy Brian Ball. He's the writer, and then he has a artist he pays, and they display that. It's a whole different hustle that I understand, but he gets it done. But they also get printed by or published by Antarctic Press, so that's their direct market thing. Which I don't do a direct market thing because you don't. I've never heard somebody that went with any of these publishers that said that was a great idea. Most say I get a check for maybe $50 every 6 months or something, and they have to sell those things at $3.99.
Right.
When you subtract print costs, the publisher's cut, the comic book.
Are you kidding me? It's like it's going to cost me almost $4 a comic, or not $3 a comic to print.
And the
so
retailer,
where's
the retailer gets half. So say your cover price is $4.99, boom, $2.50 goes to the retailer before you even out the gate. So I've always been really big against. I mean, I get that you can get people to see your comic, but I've never heard it really work. Oh, well, one dude, Adam Lawson, but he's on a bigger scale because it was his comic with
we're seeing more and more of the mainstream guys coming over here. J.M. Matisse just did a crowdfund. I really do. I don't have any inside information, but I think like the reason why Mark Miller was going around on all of the YouTube channels, I think he might be wanting to step into the ring. But also a lot of people step in and they just think it's free money. Like they don't realize it's a lot of work. Like I spend a lot of time on my comic, like writing the script is the easy part for me because that's just fun. Because if I wasn't writing the script, I'd be hanging out with my friends playing my role-playing games, and to me, it fulfills the same creative niche of storytelling and stuff. So I write my script, revise the script, send the work to the artist. Artist sends it to me. Then I have to do the script again because the art panel layout is always different, but that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. It gives you a chance to revise things. And again, you guys all pixel traders in the same thing as me, but YouTube, you do it all. So I'm just trying to think of all the steps. Get your name out there.
Yeah.
Get your name. I'm not gonna lie. When I was just like, oh man, I only got 213 backers. Like I'm only gonna print 213 issues of my comic. Like I got a little like, oh man, only 200. But like Renzo was like, John, you don't understand. Like he does work with like Mark Polton and big names. He goes, this is your first book. You raised $6,000. Then I went on Kickstarter. He goes, this is awesome for a first time guy. He goes, and it's not me because your Renzo is so humble. It is his artwork is, but this is him saying, he goes, I've worked with big guys and they didn't get 213. So yeah. I what people saying, get your name out there. Get your name out there. Like try to market.
This is good for me listening to you guys because
I do think some people they're buying the comic that they're like buying me and my personality, and I'm not going to say that I'm positive all the time. When I turn off the camera, sometimes I'm downright nasty, but like my online, I try to keep everything positive. I try to keep the love of comic books. I personally think that drama gets people to watch a YouTube channel, but I don't think it sells comics. Does anybody in the chat agree or disagree with me? Oh, and Torchbearer's goofing. He says, my wife is a saint. Well, me and my wife have an agreement. The garage and the basement are mine. The rest of the house is hers. So she's like, you can fill this garage with whatever crap you want because she doesn't go in there anyway. There's spiders in there.
I think drama sells the first book sometimes.
Okay.
But or just it can build to something, but you can't sustain that drama.
Yeah,
because over time people burn out on it. And I mean, I'm just looking at the stuff that I used to follow a bunch of people. I used to watch a lot of streams. I don't do any of that anymore. I've actually muted a bunch of accounts. I've unfollowed a bunch of accounts. I just don't have the time or the mental health in some ways to deal with their crap. Like I
I
have
just
my
don't
own
have
stuff,
the
my own
time to
family.
watch any stream that's longer than an hour. So
Exactly.
even if I like you, even if I love you, if I see it's a 4-hour stream, unless I'm
Forget it.
driving upstate, I really don't click on that video because I just who has time, you know,
Yeah.
unless and like I know Marcus, he's driving a lot for work, so he could put on streams, you know, to pass the time while he's working. But when I'm working, I'm working, and when I'm home, if I start listening to 4-hour streams, I'm getting nothing done. So
Yeah.
I think short streams.
And then it's like unnecessary drama is like a waste of precious energy to create stuff, you know?
Yeah,
And
you look at that, you say, okay, there's a bunch of drama going on, but there's also work to be done. And if the drama's happening, the work isn't happening. So what's going on? So just focus on the work, get the stuff out, knock it out. And so that's what I've been doing with our team. Like we're all head down. Actually, it's kind of funny. We haven't been marketing for like the last 2 months really, because we've all just been so focused on getting work and different stuff done in different parts of our lives. Now we're starting to step back and say, okay, it's about time to do another marketing push. I think we might actually go to Kickstarter here in a month or two.
Nice.
And if we do that, which we've got a cover in the works right now that is targeted specifically for the Kickstarter audiences. So we're looking at doing that potentially. We just got to weigh some stuff out, figure out what we want to do, what perks we should offer, little things like that. I've still got some skateboards sitting in my garage right now that we can sell, so I didn't sell out of those yet.
Literal skateboards, like I could jump on and break my neck again, or like
skateboard decks. Yeah, I've got the decks. Actually, I'll put a post in the private chat. You can see.
Like people do like stretch goals, like these cards. You know, Brian Bow really helped me get them in, and these were fun, and I love these. These are so great, but most people tell me they just throw all the stretch goal stuff in a box or whatever. Like I literally have a box full of stretch goal stuff that I don't like, bookmarks and stickers I put on my fridge over here. You know, I got my beer fridge for the basement. I just love filling it up with stickers. But you know, I don't know. For your first comic, should you go out and make these really high quality beer?
My man went to town, boy.
Yeah.
I looked at glasses, but then I thought, okay, how am I going to ship those? Because you're going to need all the packaging and all the, like the stuff to make sure they don't shatter.
Yeah, I didn't think that. Now it cost me almost as much to ship it. So I'm making $1 on these after shipping.
And you can't even ship them with the book either because it's an awkward shape. So you really got to ship them separate if you're going to protect it properly.
Yeah, I've sold a few to test it. You know, I got all the way to Canada without them being broken, so it can happen.
Yeah. Now stretch goals, after so many campaigns, I was like, okay, if someone's already, the only people that see stretch goals already backed your campaign, but also who backs a campaign going, I'll drop a little in the bucket so we can get this sticker eventually. And I was like, nobody's doing that. This is insane. All it is something to talk about. But what that is you have to talk about can be anything. And for me, the most beneficial, I release variant covers during the campaign. It gives me the same thing, something to talk about, but also they can just buy it then. And also, like me and Monk will have a dumb idea, and then we'll draw it up real quick while the campaign's going, and then we can release that. Or in the case of what do they call this? Scalability. So I did it's been 5 years since I did my first issue. It will be in February. So I did, while getting all these other comics fulfilled, I get bored when I don't have a campaign going. I did a 5-year, I had Monk draw up a new cover, which is what my little image there is. And so I did a 5-year anniversary edition of Saving the World #1. And I thought maybe some of my core people, you know, if I sell 40 of them, that's cool. Just something fun to do. And I'll just do the one cover. And
Pixels.
So I funded it. I made it ended up making $5,000 in 10 days because I also did one long campaign. I just did a 10-day campaign and made $5,000. But while that 10 days were going on, there was like, hey, where's the not safe for work cover? And I was like, I didn't make one. I'm not trying to exploit the hell out of you guys. And so, anyways, I said, "Hey, Monk, can you make one topless?" He said, "Sure." So then I had another, and then I posted his line art because his line art is awesome. And I was like, "Here's his line art, without the color." And people was like, "Well, that should have been a cover too." I was like, "Seriously?" So I was like, "Okay, fine, I'll do it." And but I could do that as I go, but that keeps communication between the backer.
Also, keep in mind though, I kind of, because when I had everything on Fund My Comic, people like, "Oh, I want a black and white edition of your comic." I was like, "Really? People want a black? Like Daniel's colors are so good." Yeah, but I'm a big fan of black and white. Can
Black
you make
and white art, man?
So I was like, "All right, I'll make a black and white edition." One person backed it. So I don't know if
It was that guy. It was that one guy, right?
No, and it wasn't even that guy. But so I reached out to him. I said, "I don't think I'm going to be able to make this because the process that I did was I did the art, I did the coloring, then I did the lettering. So to do a black and white, I'm going to have to re-letter a black and white.
Right.
So that's going to cost me hundreds of dollars to make. So I asked him, would it be okay if I sent you, one of the variant covers instead? And he was really cool about it. But my point is, don't promise stuff that
you
might, and to Matthew's great question is how much of a cover. I was adamant on $10, but when I said $10, I had a 22-page comic.
Oh, I think he means because he says if I go direct. So I'm assuming he means direct market. Oh. So how much of the cover price? Well, okay, if your cover price is $5, 50% goes to the retailer.
Correct.
Generally, 10 or 15% then goes to your distributor.
Rachel said he got called away for a meeting. I just didn't want anybody to think anything bad was going on.
Yeah, he's great. He was great. I'm gonna follow him.
Yeah, follow him. He has a good day job where he could give you lots of good information, but it's not my information to reveal.
And actually, I have sketch cards he sent me I'm supposed to do for his campaign, and it's been like months, and I kept forgetting. So I put those on my desk because I got to get those done.
Yeah.
But so you're talking. I don't know how you would make a profit off of direct market without going to like $10 or $15 cover price, but nobody's going to buy it because you're sitting next to Marvel Image for $3.99 or $4.99. But does DC Marvel give half of the cover price to the retailer? Probably not. But if you're indie, you will have to.
Yeah.
It's just movie theaters the same way. Disney does not give 90% of the ticket sales to the or 50% or something of the ticket sales to the theater, but a small movie house or studio will have to. It's how big you are and how much you get. So now, having said all that, Terry Moore is all direct market and has been since he started in 1993. I have
that he's had a base since 1993.
That's true. And I go, how many does he sell? I mean, he's doing a niche comic, but the dude, that's what he does for a living. I've talked to him a lot, and I've never
He's a great guy.
I can't. Now, he does a lot of that scalable thing. He does a lot of that because he has 300 and some issues all within that universe of comics he's been doing. And so he does the hardcovers and all that. So and his wife is, well, he's, laboring away, just draw, right? And all that. His wife is handling that scalability. So they do an art book and then
they got a team.
Yeah, so Edward, you got to go you got to marry a marketing genius. That's what you got to do.
I think that's the key, man. I think that's the real key. I got a final question for you guys before I hop off this. This has been absolutely remarkable.
We'll follow up on this because this is a good topic that should be
a really good topic.
And I don't even think we broke the iceberg yet.
Yeah. And also too is making me ask questions because I just want to draw stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't want to be, if you wanted to be a marketer, you'd be a marketer.
And the thing is, I don't mind being a marketer right now. I don't mind doing all the heavy work right now. But I also want to collab with people because I know my writing is out of necessity. You know what I mean? Because I want to draw stuff. but knowing I could work with other people, draw for them, do all that is like, oh, that's very enticing too. And then I could do my own stuff, whatever. But so my question to you guys would be, I have this one shot comic that I did 5 years ago. It's all online. It's on Global Comics, on Amazon. How would you go about funding it? Do you think it would be worth it? It's 40 pages, colored. What would your advice be on getting that out? Like, is it just because right now it's self-published, like it's out, you could buy it, and I think even a few people in the chat have bought it, which thank you so much. But what would you do with that, or would you just move on to the next one? Like, what's your advice there?
Well, if it's already made, it's already paid for. It doesn't hurt you to run a crowdfunding, and that'll be a selling point. It's already made.
Yeah, it's already made.
And you could put like the first 6 or 7, 8 pages on the campaign page. You know what I mean? And then, but I think what you do is like up it, make it a hard copy. Give a reason like why. Okay, well, maybe more some art prints or a pin up or cards. Something to make it a little bit different. But why not?
Yeah, because I definitely want to do it just because I feel like I owe it to myself.
I'll back.
Appreciate it.
It's pretty much if you come on my channel, like there's a 90% chance that you're at least getting one backer.
Yeah, because I definitely want to do it because I feel like I owe it to myself, and then like move on to the next thing. And also too, I want to do it for cons. I want to make sure I have books for cons. Like, I would love to do stuff like that.
I mean, if it's already made, what's it going to cost to you? And see, you make a crowdfunder. And it doesn't do good. Did you lose any money?
No.
You know what I mean? So you're in a real unique position. I think you got nothing to lose. Now, me, if I make a comic book and it, because I'm paying out of pocket, I got the most to lose. Where the Adam Smiths and guys like that who, if it doesn't crowd, they just don't proceed forward. You know what I mean? Like you got the least amount of risk. The true artist method. They got the second most, like the least amount of, but I got the most the way I'm doing it, and I think Dave Brink is doing it the way I'm doing. He's paying everybody else, because me and Dave, I don't think we draw at all. I mean, to answer this question, how much alternate covers? I'm not going to give away anybody's rates because that's just not cool. But I paid more than I should have because I got legendary guys and guys that I was super fans of. And to be honest, even if my comic book bombed, to have these 3 guys do my comic book was worth the price. So like what I paid, because I also got the original art. So if I had commissioned them just to do original art, it was the same price. It was original art that I could use as a cover. So I don't consider it a loss at all. So but that's me personally. But I also reached out to a big name and he quoted me $4,000. How many of his fans would have bought that?
None of them. It could be, you could get, here's one lesson I learned. Oh wait, Ed, before he leaves. Yeah, one thing I've had other people say, well, I tried, like with some people, they tried to crowdfund their comic before and it didn't, they got like 20 backers. It just didn't work. And they said, should I try again? But I already did that. I was like, yeah. And you only got, there's millions of readers. In our circle, there's at least 10,000 or so.
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't sold that many copies, hell yeah, you should try to sell it again because you didn't get all the people. And my number one, everybody has it that's in my circle that I could possibly reach. I mean, it's I'm on this is my 4th print run, really. Wow. It's just the first time it had a full-on variant cover. But I go, okay, so I was selling this comic to people I knew already owned it. So I go, okay, I'm going to have Monk draw a badass cover that's all new. And so people, and when he come out with that, I was like, dude, that's totally perfect. I would buy my comic again with that cover. And so, once you have the interiors done, you can sell and repackage that thing a million ways to Sunday. You just got to have fun with it and find exciting new ways to, present it. So I would say, like, yeah, if it's been available and maybe some people have it, I would do a variant cover. Just do a new cover for it, and it kind of a deluxe edition, something like that.
Yeah.
And so totally worthwhile doing it.
Yeah, make it new so that there's a reason. Because, I was talking to Paul Thayer last night, who does the project analysis, and I like talking to him because he reminds me that this is a business. I'm a comic book collector who's making a comic book, and sometimes I forget. And I'm like, yeah, I spent too much money on my comic book. That's okay. And he's like, no, it's not okay. This is a business, right. So like, I think I did my my cost per issue is way too low. You know what I mean? That's something like you have to, like, I was just like more standing on principle. I damn it, comic books should be affordable. And if I had raised my price to 15, maybe I'd have the same amount of backers and then another $3,000 on top of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I threw away $3,000 on principle. I'm not upset, but it would be nice to have another. So these are all the things you got to think about. Like, what is my time and effort work? What is a fair price? I don't want to gouge anybody. That's the last, because people do remember that. Like, there's a couple of comics I'm not buying their stuff anymore because I thought it was too expensive for what I got.
Right.
There's a couple of people that I'm like, they could charge $15 more and I'd still be happy because there's so much quality in that page. And I'd like to think that I'll be in that group, that people like, wow, this guy gave me a 40-page comic book for $10. It's maybe it's not the best, but damn it, I like that. I'm going to support it. I don't know. I'm spitballing it, but yeah, you got to be a businessman. Like, I forget that this is a business.
Yeah, it's like we've all had fun in our own ways, whether it's creating or collecting or both. And it's like, wait a minute, this could be a business thing. This, how do you make money? Or how do you got dude over here making a living, a low interest living, but it's a living nonetheless, which is amazing.
Yeah. Brian says he'll do your variant cover. I just want to show this was an original commission that Brian did to me. Brian was actually the first person I ever went out and commissioned because I was just so blown away by his comic.
Wow!
So he's totally worth it. And again,
that's a great.
This is me, like, trying to help all my friends. Brian is a wonderful guy, hard worker. So I don't mind giving him a commercial. He helped. 28 page. Yeah, Matthew, I gave you my email address. Email me. We'll come on and we'll talk. Matthew is a guy who's starting right from the beginning, and he keeps asking me questions. But I'm not going to give out my Facebook on live and say my whole name and everything like that. But so email me at johnslongbox@yahoo.com and we'll set something up.
Yeah, and this kind of that kind of answers all. But like, I've watched hundreds of campaigns. So like, when I was funding mine, I watched everybody else's and see what they did and see what worked and what didn't. And a few things I learned was, you will not be rewarded for value. And is there logic? I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I saw a guy try to sell his comic for $5. He sold less than me. I sell my comics for $15 and then shipping on top of that. And I always have since number one. And I saw a guy go, well, I'm going to go cheaper and see if I can get more backers. They didn't. And then they said, well, I'm going to do more pages though also. And it didn't help. And so no backer is going, hold on a second, how many pages is this comic? So I do 32. I mean, if I go, man, I want for the story, and I've done, I think issue number 8, I ended up doing 45 or 44 or something. Yeah, 44. Because
so have you had 8 successful campaigns.
I've like 14 or so.
Yeah, you're up to issue 15. Yeah, plus a couple of side campaigns. So
how many are you doing a year?
3 or 4.
Okay.
And so pretty
much a year.
Yeah. So and it's sped up now because and kind of like ideas, from networking come. So I'm so I was doing my comic writing and drawing. Well, another guy, he was kind of looking for something to do. He was an artist. He did some writing, but he was more into just the drawing part. And I said, well, I'll do collaboration. I said, I don't make enough money to pay anybody up front, but if you want a collaboration, that's the kind of community of 90s underground guys I come from, is collaborating. So what we did was I wrote the script and he drew it, and then I crowdfunded it, and then I took out the money needed for printing and shipping, and then we split that 50-50. And so we just kind of started doing stuff like that. And now, and for him, he was like, whoa, because he made more money on that than he did writing and drawing. Is I just have a base that kind of supports what we do. And I have a very low overhead because I'm doing most of it myself. But that I've reached out, and that's where all my ideas come from, is some sort of collaboration or something.
Which I'm open to collaborate with anyone if you need a little shameless self-promotion here.
No, it's not shame. You have to self-promote. Whose job is it?
Who's going to do it for you? Right.
You got to promote yourself. You got to do it. Nobody else owes you promotion. And, one guy asked me to promote on his channel and then attacked me over it, and then made fun of me because I asked to be honest. And I'm like, and then his fans were like, ha ha ha, you're mad because you felt you were owed promotion. I was like, I wasn't owed, that got me more mad than anything else, that people like misinterpret it. But like, dude, we all promote each other. We all promote each other. And my channel wouldn't exist if other people, if Tonic Ball and Brian Bow and Terry Moore didn't come on my channel and talk. When I was a guy by myself showing off comic books, I was getting 3 or 4 views per video. And then next thing you know, Jim Shooter's coming on, and Mark Millar's coming on, and and Tom DeFalco's coming on, and you're coming on. And now people are like, I'll go on other people's channel and they're like, wow, John Longbox. I'm like, dude, I'm just jerking a neck brace, but it's all because of other people. And we need other people. We, this is going to sound crude, but you asking, hey, John, can we talk about Kickstarter? That's a great idea for it. Now I'm getting views. You know what I mean? So you're helping me just by coming on my channel. So I don't think it's a bad thing promoting each other. Because create, like, I don't want to say drama, but create like excitement,
create a wave, create a
you know what I mean, and excitement,
put the energy into it.
Interest. That's all from you and I talking, and Tonic Ball talking, and telling funny stories, and being.
You go back your show when you would just show the comic and you would kind of talk about it, and you reviewed my comic, and then I went on your show, right? And that wasn't even very long ago, but it felt like a million years ago.
It feels like another time, doesn't it?
And then we're talking, I was like, oh, you should ask so and so or whatever. You go out, you get what's the
Alpha Red, send me a message on Twitter, or johnslongbox@yahoo.com. I'm easy. I like talking to people.
You got Skyver, then you got Eric July and Jimmy Palmiotti, Terry Moore, and Jim freaking Shooter. Holy shit, dude. I tell you what, if it didn't come through when I was DMing you on Twitter, I was like, what the hell? Because there's big channels and it's just like cannibalism of just the same like little group of people. And your channel was doing the craziest shit I've ever seen. And that's like, you got Kotaku, or not Kotaku, but like the was it the Bleeding Cool and stuff, and they're trailing behind you because they're not getting any freaking interviews. They're just like some guy talking about the comic he read, and you're talking to Jim freaking Shooter.
Well, I owe a lot to you too, because you came on my channel and you said go talk to Terry Moore, and I'm a big Terry Moore fan.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's not going to come on my channel. And you're like, no, he's chill. So I was like, all right. So I was like, hey, Tonic Ball said to talk to you. And he was on like 4 days later.
Yeah.
And that I was like, wow, these comic book. And then I realized that Terry Moore even said, he goes, I got to promote.
Right.
And Terry Moore, I said earlier that big wigs were saying they don't like. Terry Moore is a shy guy. I don't think I'm telling any tales out of school. He doesn't like to be on camera and talk. He likes having his nose down at the table and drawing, sending it to his wife, and his wife doing all that marketing stuff. So he was nervous. He said to me afterwards, I appreciate that you did all the, the leading and, because that's his person. So I was like, oh, wow. Like, I actually felt like, wow, I helped a guy that I admire. And that gave me a lot of courage to reach out to other people. So, and it all came from, I bought an alternate comic and it had an ad for Saving the World. I liked the artwork. I ordered the comic. I did a channel, and then Tonic Ball reaches out. It's all, because
it's like a
yourself out there.
Domino effect, RJ reached out to me. We talked. That was a great conversation. Now we're talking again. Now I connected to 2 or 5 more people. So, for me, it was like, when I made that first book, it was like, I want to make a comic because I'm very confident in my skill set. I told you that last time. And now it's like,
and you should be. Your art is outstanding.
Thank you.
Like the guy who wrote Confederacy of Dunces, he wrote one of my favorite novels in the world, put it in a box, and it didn't go anywhere. And then when he died, I think his mother found the box and got the book published. You know what I mean? Like, what good was that novel doing anybody sitting in a box in a closet?
Yeah, now it's like getting the ball rolling on, like, Ed, you do like comics. You might not be able to do 5 a year, but man, you could at least do pages. You could at least do covers. Like, you love drawing and connecting with other people, new people. I have my friends, I have my circle of artists, but it's us, and it hasn't grown. So to be able to talk to you guys and even show my face on camera, you know what I mean? Like, this is new stuff. We're out there in the wilderness now, and I'm loving it, man. I'm so grateful for your guys' time and everything.
And we'll come back and talk, because there's a part 2, because we didn't even talk about the platforms, what the different platforms have to offer.
Yeah.
What there's still so much. Like, we basically just talked about get out there. You got to get out there.
Get out there.
Get out there. And then I say that there's I will say that there's 4 types of crowdfunding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but there's the true crowdfunding where the artist is asking you to pay his bills while he's creating the art, like the Adam Smiths and I'm trying to think like Graham Nolan, these guys are the gold standard of crowdfunding, if you ask me. Then there's guys like me that pay out of pocket and then do the crowdfunding when it's mostly done. Then there's other people that like use it as a pre-ordering system. I don't know, whatever works for you, and I think they all work. Know your value. Like I do think in retrospect I made my comic a little too inexpensive. I don't want to say cheap, because you're getting a good comic, because I kind of forgot that this is a business. You got to remember this is a business, And I didn't really think of it as a business, because I have a day job, that pays all my bills, and I was using my frivolous money to make a comic. But I could afford to do that. I'm fortunate, but so going forward, I gotta
allowing ourselves to make mistakes too.
Right. I made so many mistakes.
Yeah.
I even think the way I did 3 crowdfunders competing against each other, like I should have put all 4, because like I made 4 covers, by the regular cover by Renzo, and then the 3 artists. I should have put them all on Fund My Comic, and then everybody who's excited would have bought all 4. That would have been $40 per customer. Instead, they've got $20 per customer, and then a third of them bought the extra cover on Kickstarter, and then nobody's buying the next cover on Indiegogo. You know what I mean? So I that's something I won't repeat that mistake. So
and Tonic, I like what you said about doing a new cover and like repackaging it. That's a very good idea.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna do that. Yeah.
Then he begs for the Blood of Virgins. Well, Blood of Virgins goes really good on the aftermarket there, Nick. Don't sell yourself short.
But thank you guys, man. This has been wonderful. Another great conversation. Again, we can do a part 2.
We have to do, because we didn't talk about fulfillment. We didn't talk about, what I mean? We barely talked about printing. There's a lot more to talk about. So, and I got nothing to do.
More people could come on. We could do a comics 101 thing where more and more people could come on as we do with you.
I'll reach out to you afterwards because we're going to wind down now, and then if you want to come back, Ed, we'll do part 2.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah,
okay,
man.
all right. Well, we're going to get going. Thank you, Tonic Bowl.
Thank you so much. I followed you and I followed Pixel Trader.
Yeah, there's so many people.
Messages from me.
This chat is just a list of people that like Pixel Trader, Brian Bow, Nick Axe. I'm just going, and forgive me if I miss anybody's, but like Kyle Prometheus over here. I feel like this is another guy. He made my trailer. If you go on Indiegogo and click on my trailer, that trailer is outstanding. He just made it for me and sent it to me. I didn't ask him, because he liked what I did, and it's awesome. And at the same time, he's probably hoping other people will hire him, and that's fine too. You got to put yourself out there. Awesome. And then my trailer on Fund My Comic, Phantasmagoria gal made it for me. She just said, "Hey, John, look, I made you a trailer." So I can't complain. Everybody's been helpful, and you don't get what you don't ask for. Everybody's been helpful, and if you do reach out and ask for somebody and they're nasty about it, that's on them. Everybody's
that's their karma. They got to deal with that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I got a plug. Hold on.
Oh yeah.
Plug it.
Plug me, baby.
Saving the World #1 Anniversary Edition is still available on Kickstarter. Go there and Google it or something. It'll pop up.
Put the link in the private chat. We'll throw it up.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. And we're all helping each other. I don't view this as a contest. Well, I do view it as a contest. I'm competing against myself. I'm not competing against Sonic Wall. Somebody asked me a question, and I got a little annoyed at the question. But Phenomenova, Von Coleman's comic, we launched on the same time, and he did double as me. And he goes, "Are you mad?" I said, "Why am I mad? Why would I be mad? Like, this is my first comic, and I did 7K. You know what I mean? Like, nobody said, 'Oh man, I was going to back John's comic, but instead I'm going to want,' you know what I mean?" So somebody else's success is not like, I'm not a communist. I don't think this is.
We're kind of like rising tides.
Right, exactly.
Rising tide raises all boats, and it's like I see indie comics. Like I'm seeing indie comics rise and compete with the big guys. Granted, they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot for various reasons, but that's trickling down to us where we can start really doing this stuff,
I had Fabian Nizietta on my channel, and we would talk about crowdfunding, and he was really pooping on it, saying like, "Oh, what's the big deal if I only sell 200, 300 comics?" And I said, "Well, the big deal is you still make a couple of grand. Like, what do you make on one issue of the New Warriors working for Marvel? What do they pay you? $60 a page, $100 a page? So you made $2,000 for one issue." I said, the potential is limitless. Ethan Joy sold $400,000 on Cyberfrog #1.
I make $250 to $300 a page for Saving the World, roughly.
Yeah, you wait.
And it was IDW that their rate thing kind of that they've barred it at $200 a page total, and that's for the penciler, inker, colorist, editor, all that combined. Right. I was like, I wouldn't work. Who would work for that? But they're like, I get out there. It's like
I'm hiring Comic Bowl. I'm telling you, each page of our comic, Tom, is going to be more than $200, and I'm a guy sitting in a basement eating chocolate chip cookies for lunch. You know what I mean? How is it possible that I'm paying more than I consider IDW mainstream? You know what I mean? If you're getting movies made about your products, you're mainstream. You know what I mean? I would feel embarrassed paying what they pay.
And I love Ninja Turtles, but I'd have to take a pay cut to write and draw Ninja Turtles.
Real quick, I just got a full box of OG Ninja Turtle stuff. Someone gave me a whole box of OG Ninja Turtle stuff.
Nice.
I was like, wow, like, and I think it's like it starts like issue 13 and like goes up from there.
Tonic Ball got mad at me when I told him I never read a Ninja Turtles comic. He demanded that I go buy one and read it. And I got to say, it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I got to get issue 2, but I got to get the lowest print run that I could afford. So I got 5th printing.
Yeah. I think my treasure is like a 4th printing of number 1. No, maybe it is the 5th printing. I can't remember. But and then I think I got a 3rd printing of number 2 and then a 2nd printing of number 3. But
and it kills me that I had the original comic in my hand at the comic book store. I was working and I was just like, this is garbage. Who would ever? I was like revolted by the idea that they were making fun of Frank Miller's Daredevil.
Dude, my dad, he was a collector. Like, he was a kid, when, Spider-Man #1 and Fantastic Four, like, he was a kid. But he had all number 1s of everything, 2, 3, 4, and he went into a drug rehab program when he was like a teenager, and when he came out of it, he gave them all away. He was like, I can't have it near me because it's but years later he was like,
I'm thinking about taking drugs again. My dad had Action Comics #1, and I know because he knew all the stories that weren't Superman. Like
my grandma knew Joel Schuster.
Oh wow!
Yeah. She told me about that like 2 years before she died. I was like, "What? Tell me everything. Tell me all you can." But this has been great, guys.
We'll do 102. We'll call it, Crowdfunding 102. And Ed, come back because, like, again, we were just talking about marketing and getting your face out there. We didn't talk. To me, the hard work is fulfilling and what you have to do. And
we're only 2% in.
Right. We just put the tip in, and there's still so. And to me, this is the stuff. If anybody's watching this I know Tonic has filled a campaign. If anybody who's fulfilled a campaign, reach out to me. I would like to have you on because I need the advice because I still haven't fulfilled the campaign yet. I just got information today that I'm about to, do the pre-press. So I'm literally at the beginning of the pre-press step, which I got a guy that I trust that I work with. But, Ed, we didn't talk about picking a platform, should we do multiple platforms? There's still a lot. So yeah, I would like to do this. I think it's to pat myself on the back. I think this is an important topic.
But I think it's the most important topic.
But I also, I say, and I don't like streams that are super long. I don't click on. So we'll end now. Under 2 hour streams, I think people are like, yeah, I'll watch that.
Booyah!
Yeah. But thanks a lot, everybody. This was fun. Thank you for all the questions. Logic, I didn't avoid your questions. I asked the same questions again about the printing and paper and stuff. I was just waiting for it to come up organically, and then we were going to address it. But that's the kind of thing that should be talked about. So, guys, a lot of great questions. Thanks for everybody showing up. Let me put up. Oh, geez, I keep hitting the wrong buttons. I want to give everybody one more exposure. So this is Tonic Balls. This is his Kickstarter. This is
it's not here.
My old hands aren't working as fast as they should. This is the Desert King. This is Ed Lilly's and I gotta say I was totally blown away by the art. This is Tonic Mall, and then mine is on Indiegogo. Heroic Tales #1 on Indiegogo. Heroic Tales. It's still available on Fund My Comic, and Fund My Comic is going to be my home going forward. If you missed the Kickstarter and you missed that Michael T. Gilbert cover, you could get it now on Fund My Comic, because again we'll talk about platforms next time. But thanks a lot, everybody. Bye bye.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.